Hi, everyone. Welcome to our pre-departure orientation video series. We're going to kick off this series by talking about important on-campus resources for students in the U.S. I'm sure you guys are all super excited to come here and start your education at one of our colleges and universities, but might be a little nervous or confused or curious about what resources are available to you as a student. What is the university going to provide you to help you be successful? And before we get into that, I just wanted to quickly introduce myself and my partner who worked on this presentation together. My name is Molly Brunanson. I'm a VSFS intern with Education USA Argentina. I'm a second year undergrad student at Boston University studying international relations and music, and I'm also from Boston, Massachusetts in the US. And my partner is Stasia, who is also an intern with Education USA Argentina, and she is a fourth year undergraduate student at the University of Virginia, majoring in public policy and Spanish, which are her two main areas of study. We'll talk a little bit more about majors and minors in the academics portion of this series, so stay tuned for that. And Stasia is from San Francisco, California. All right, so we're going to kick off this presentation by talking about academic resources. So obviously you're coming to the US to study something and get your education, and you might be curious about what kind of resources your campus might have to offer to help you succeed in all your classes. And so let's get started. So two of the most important people that you will get acquainted with while at college is your academic dean and your academic advisor. So, your academic dean is sort of the top person in your academic program. They are the director of your specific program. So, for example, I study international relations. I have a dean of the party school at my school, which is the global studies school. And they oversee the professors within that, academic area, and they help develop curriculums, which is like the study plan, the classes that you have to take to get your degree. And they also monitor student progress, making sure everyone is taking the classes that they need to graduate on time. Now, you won't interact too much with your dean just because there are people like professors and your advisors who you would go to first to resolve a problem, but they're always there and you can always contact them when you have an academic problem with a professor or anybody else that you cannot solve by directly talking to the professor or talking to an advisor or anyone of the like. They're really like your sort of last resort when you have a problem. Hopefully you won't need to talk to them about any problems, but they are there to ensure your success, so they're a good person to get acquainted with. Now, someone that you will be seeing a lot is your academic advisor. These will be individually assigned to you at the beginning of the year, usually by last name, or it'll be mostly likely in an email from your college. These are personal counselors that help students plan out their courses and make sure that you are on track to graduate, making sure you meet all your requirements in order to get your degree. Academic advisors also help students plan for life after graduation and can help students with managing their course load, whether you need to maybe drop a class, add extra classes, change your major, things like that. This is the most important person that you will encounter when you're looking at academics. So make sure that you get familiar with your academic advisor and make sure to check in with them every semester, just to go over your courses and make sure that you're on track to graduate. Moving on to actual help with your classes, all schools have multiple options for on-campus tutoring, usually free for students, and these things will be advertised around campus, making sure that you're aware that they exist. One of the most important and helpful resources for academics is a writing center, and these are pretty much at every school, and they help students with papers and other written assignments, just research, lab reports, whatever you need. And this is especially helpful for people whose first language is not English. It might be like an extra just challenge to write, but these people they're non-judgmental. They're here to help. And even for, native English speakers, it's just like a super helpful resource whenever you have writer's block, just don't know what to do, or you just want an extra set of eyes to review your work before submitting it. Definitely take advantage of the writing center on campus. In addition, each of your professors are also available for any questions that you might have. They are required to hold office hours, which will be, told to you at the beginning of the class, at the beginning of the year. It'll be listed in a syllabus that you will get most likely on the first day of class. And you can go during a set period of time during the week. You can ask any questions about the class. You could bring in an assignment that you have questions about. The professors are required to have this time to sit down and help you, and it is a super, valued resource. And in addition to, academic help, if you have questions about just what the professors are doing, like research, or you just want to get connected because they're doing something cool in the field you want to go into, it's just a great resource to get connected with your professors. In addition to professors, students also work as tutors in various subjects. A lot of times, if people are particularly good at a subject, they will offer their services, helping with specific classes and subjects. And this is not always free. Some students, run their own business and do charge a small fee, but it really depends on the person and the school. But definitely keep an eye out, throughout your academic department for any students who are willing to help you with assignments and coursework. Moving on to another great free resource is information technology, or IT. And this service, every university has it. It has to do with everything computer and technology. So the employees help with any computer issues you may have. If your computer, won't turn on, or you're not able to log into your student portal, some program is not running correctly on your computer, you should go to IT. It's usually free of charge, unless, you know, they may charge a fee if they are actually fixing something, like a hardware issue, like if something on your computer is actually broken, they may charge you, but they will be very clear about that up front. But for the most part, things are free and they can help you with any sort of issues with your computer that you may have. As your computer working is very important, as most of your assignments are done digitally. In addition to helping solve problems, IT is also a good resource because they can provide student discounts, or maybe even like a free program for specific, softwares like Adobe Photoshop, or something, or logins for other programs like that. It's a super underrated resource that I don't think a lot of students use when they have computer problems, but it's definitely good to have just in case. Okay, now we're going to move on to financial resources. As you know, college is a huge cost. It's a big burden on a lot of families, and knowing how to manage your money and your bill and just all of that is super important. So let me get into it. Okay, so let's talk about the international office. This is probably the number one most important resource for all of you, specifically coming from Argentina to the US to study. The international office at every school is dedicated to serving you guys, international students, for anything that you might need in your transition from the US to, or from Argentina to the US, sorry. And some of the services that the international office provide are immigration services, making sure that your visa is all, sorted out when you come to customs. They have all the forms that you need. In addition, if you are looking to work in the US, they have, employment opportunities, and have all the forms that you might need to fill out to work here legally. In addition to any tax services that, when you're working in the US, you have to pay taxes. And so they will help out with that for you as an international student. In addition, the international office will have a web page, like the one right here on the screen is the one for Boston University, my university. And this will have helpful information and important contacts of people you need to know. And a lot of times, it'll also just have something like this, like cultural, information, and just anything that may be helpful, like a guide to, living on campus as an international student. And a lot of times they run programs for international students to get together, at the beginning of the year and just get acclimated to your new school. So international office is super, super important, and just make sure you get acquainted with it when you come to campus. As I just mentioned, the international office does deal with student employment. So in the US, international students are permitted to work up to 20 hours per week on campus. And students may be able to work 40 hours a week during summer and holidays, especially if you're staying here and not going home and need to make some extra money. It can be a good opportunity to be able to work full time hours. And the international office, like I mentioned, provides employment opportunities. So all of the jobs on campus that international students are eligible to work. And they also provide the necessary documentation like tax forms and things like that to make sure that you are working legally and just, not getting in any trouble. And they some of the typical on-campus jobs that universities provide are working in the dining hall, front desk administration, working in an office, things like making copies, writing emails, things like that. Mail services, which I will talk about more about in my dorm life video, being able to organize packages and give out mail to different students on campus. And another really popular one is just working in your school's library. And the last important financial resource is student accounting. So every school has a student accounting office, which handles your tuition bill and just all of the expenses that you need to pay as a student. And they will have an online portal, most likely, where you can keep track of how much you owe, any scholarships you would report to this office, so that they take that off of your tuition bill, any additional costs like housing or meals that you might incur, and also payment plans. A lot of people cannot afford to pay the full tuition price up front, and so a lot of schools have plans to pay it in installments just to make it more manageable for families. And this office can also answer any questions related to extra charges on your bill, and if you have you know any inconsistencies or disputes, they are the people to go to make sure that everything is charged correctly. Okay, so the next category is resources for health and well being. While you're here, you're bound to get sick, you're bound to get stressed and overwhelmed, but pretty much every university has resources and they are prepared to help you get through any rough patches that you may have. So, starting with the first one is student health services. Which is the health center on campus where students will receive medical and mental health services. You do not have to go off campus to go see a doctor. We have doctors on campus that offer things like just, general checkups. If you have, any sort of medical issue that you need to, get addressed, you can just go to the health center. You can get vaccines like your flu and your COVID shots, any prescriptions like medication. They can also provide that for you. And some services, this is not all free. We do not have free healthcare, unfortunately. They may require a copay, which is just, what you personally have to pay for these services. And this will be listed by your school. They'll be very discreet about the charges up front. And it's important to know that most students, international students, will enroll in university provided health insurance. A lot of American students have private health insurance or just government provided health insurance. But if you're an international student, it is a good idea to enroll in your university health insurance. This will be, an extra charge, but it's important to have so that you're not paying for every health service out of pocket if you need it. So definitely look into school health insurance when you come to campus. And, in addition to medical services, they also offer, services and accommodations for students with disabilities. So if you have, a learning disability or a physical disability, it is good to check in with health services to make sure that you have all the accommodations that you need to be comfortable while you're on the campus. And in addition, there's a lot of wellness options for both mental and physical health. A lot of times, for example, there might be cooking classes, yoga, other fitness classes. Most students go to like a gym on campus to work out, or, a lot of us have also pools on campus. So lots of ways to get your body moving and to be healthy. And this picture is Stasia's University's student health center. And so a lot of times they're very big, all inclusive. But yes, super important to get acquainted with health services if you have any medical or wellness, issue that you need to get checked out. All right. So another resource that your university will have is some sort of campus safety network. Colleges take their students safety very seriously. Um, you know, Especially if you're in a big city in a foreign country, you may have safety concerns, but do not worry. There are lots of resources here to make sure that you stay safe and sound. For example, a lot of schools have safety alerts, which will give you communication from the school anytime there's anything that is happening on campus that you might need to be aware of, any emergencies. You can enroll in sort of like email or text updates, and that your parents can also receive these through email back home, just so that they know what's going on and that you know what's going on. this is usually like a rare occurrence that anything will happen, but just in case, it's good to have. In addition, schools will have these blue safety lights, which is in the top right hand corner, and emergency telephones located across campus. In the rare event that you need to quickly, call the police or any other emergency service, there are these big blue poles that you could just press a button, and you know emergency services, police, ambulance, whoever you need will be there as soon as possible. They will usually arrive within minutes. So it's a really great resource to have, especially if you don't have your phone on you. You can just press the button, and help will arrive. In addition, most schools have their own police force that you can call whenever you feel unsafe or there's an emergency. And these schools will also provide options for students to get home at night if you're in by yourself, you're studying late, and you don't feel safe walking alone at night. A lot of times there will be campus buses or like a safe ride service where university employees can come pick you up and take you back to your dormitory, and even the police can give you a ride if you're feeling unsafe. So definitely no need to feel unsafe being home, walking home alone or going anywhere at night. Okay, so the last sort of like wellness resource that I wanted to mention is residential life. So, as you will find out, students will live in dorms on campus, and we have another video just talking about dorm life and living on campus that will be available for you. But yes, students live in dorms, and each floor has a resident advisor or resident assistant, also known as a RA, who is there solely to support and assist students. So, if you have any conflicts with your roommates, or if you're just like adjusting to life on campus, they are a resource where you can talk to them at any time. There'll be an RA on call, even during the nighttime. If anything comes up, any safety or issues come up, they are there to help. Some of the other things that RAs do are organize events to build community, which is really great for first year students who don't know anyone. If you go to these floor events, you can meet everybody who's in your residence and make new friends and just have a good time. And they also are there to just provide resources. If you have a specific problem, they can point you in the right direction, whether it has to do with academics, mental health, anything like that. But they're also there to make sure that you are following the rules. Most residences have specific rules that you have to follow, like you have to be quiet after a certain hour, no alcohol, things like that. And so they are there to make sure that you're staying safe and following the rules. And the last category that I have here is resources for adapting to campus life. And especially for international students coming to the US, it can be a huge culture shock and just really difficult to adjust in your first semester. But I promise you that the university has this in mind, and there are lots of options for you to help get acclimated. And the one that we wanted to mention are the cultural/affinity groups. And pretty much all students have a bunch of clubs about different things, but they also have cultural clubs and student groups focused on identity. So your ethnic identity, religious, social. For example, Stasia here is Polish, so she joined her school's Polish heritage group. My school, Boston University, has LATAM, which is a Latin American student group where students from all over Latin America can come and celebrate their culture and meet each other, especially because it can be really isolating living in a city where there's people from all over, and you just feel you need some like taste of home. Like, there is most likely a cultural group for you on campus, and these groups host discussions, fun events. They celebrate holidays that you might celebrate at home. And in addition, they might do professional development groups, which is an opportunity to meet, people in the field that you're interested in, and network and just get to know new people. And these groups are super open-minded. They welcome students from all backgrounds. Even if you're not part of a specific cultural group, you are welcome to go join their group and just learn more about a new culture. And so, it's all winners here. There's just like lots of benefits from joining these groups. And so I would highly recommend checking out which ones your school has to offer. All right, and that brings us to the end of the on campus resources presentation. Thank you so much for listening through this. I hope that it was helpful for you guys. If you have any remaining questions, feel free to visit the Education Argentina website at educationusa.org.argentina.ar for more information, or you can email me personally at my email, which I just put on the screen. You can be in English or Spanish. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you may have about coming to, campus in the US, and I'll do my best to answer those. And thank you so much again, guys, and good luck.